Hi, I'm Tricia from Club Scrap, and this is the Friendships Card Workshop. We first rolled out this unique way of making a dozen cards out of 12 by 12 papers at our 20th anniversary cruise, and I cannot wait to show you how to make the cards in this new way, at least new to me. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I think you'll learn a lot that you can use in other card making projects. So we are going to make 12 cards, which is a typical batch of cards we make here at Club Scrap, but we're going to do it in a different way. We have the double Z fold card structure, and we'll have a blue pairing and then a pink combination. Really nice set of 4 cards there. And then we're going to do the standing box card with the hinge right here in the front. Really clever way of making a pocket to have the greeting on the inside since the card doesn't open. We'll make 4 of those in different color combinations. And then we also have a A7 size card with the belly band and an overlapping gatefold that opens to the sentiment inside. And we've procured a really nice set of embellishments and goodies for this kit. We've got the gorgeous rose gold edged satin ribbon, some black jute, and then a really fun roll of washi tape in a nice narrow size. It's perfect for making cards. Of course, the kit also includes the 12 envelopes, 4 each of 3 different sizes, and then the papers and cut-aparts. So let's begin. I've got my instructions printed here, and make sure you go online to find your copy to follow along with. The kit also comes with a packing list, and the instruction link will be on that packing list. We're trying to make a habit of that to make instructions easy to find. Okay, so let's get our papers in order based on the order we'll be trimming them. So I'm going to first find 2 dark pink papers from the stack. And this is a typical activity that we do every time we start the process of trimming a collection. So 2 dark pink. And then 2 white plains. So just make sure they're plain on both sides. I'm stacking these in order on the base of my trimmer. Then we need 2 light pink. It's a nice, bright, fun light pink. 2 teal. 1 black plain. Actually, both black plains will be next. And 1 more teal. And then with the cut-aparts that remain, we'll take, this sheet has the 4 squares in the corner. Let's just go with that. And then there's another sheet of cut-aparts that has some skinnier strips. Let's have that one be our last cut. Okay, now it's important that you have the guillotine style trimmer ready to go, the accordion pocket file to keep ourselves organized, and also a ScorPal for later, plus just your basic crafting supplies like adhesive, and there's a full listing of all the supplies that I use right here in the instructions. Okay, so we are going to begin by trimming 4 sheets of paper the exact same way. But what's really important is that when we are trimming this paper, we pay attention to which way the paper will eventually be scored. Then we will based on that information, we will correctly place the paper into the trimmer. So first we need to define the grain direction of the paper. And to do this, I will hold the paper by its edge and study the flexibility of the paper going in that direction. Then check the other edge. This is a lot more stiff. This is a lot more flexible. So I want that flexible direction to be going from the top to the bottom, or north to south. I'm going to take the second pink paper and do it the same test. So if I hold it this way, it really wants to dip. If I hold it this way, it's very stiff. So I want that easy dip going from top to bottom. So now both sheets of paper are placed into the trimmer with the grain running easily top to bottom. And our first cut will be probably a measurement you might not be used to. It's 11 7/8. Don't panic. Just simply find 12 on the trimmer and go halfway between 11 3/4 and 12. You'll find 11 7/8. Then slide down to 10 1/4. And then 7. Now rotate the 7-inch piece horizontally and trim at 11. These are going to become card bases that will be scored, so I'm going to set these aside for now. And then there are also 2 really little pieces. Those strips are scraps. Save them though. If you'd like, what I like to do is put these in the 4th pocket of my accordion pocket file. We might find a home for them, you never know. Now you have this other wider, longer strip here. Let's trim this horizontally at 9. Take this long piece, set it aside for scoring, and these other rectangles will go in the pocket for card set B, or the second pocket. Now you have a long narrow strip. Let's trim this horizontally at 6.5. The 6.5 inch piece will go in the third pocket for card set C, and then these two pieces, I'll file them in the fourth pocket as a scrap. And then these, of course, are scraps, and we'll just pitch those right away. Now, we get to repeat the whole process with the white planes. So same thing. You want to just check your dippy grain direction. Let's see. Paper really wants to go that way. It's a little more stiff. So just check each one, and we'll repeat. So 11 7/8, 10 1/4, 7, then rotate, cut the 7-inch piece at 11, set the larger piece aside for scoring. This scrap will go in pocket D. We have our long 3-inch strip. We'll cut that, that's actually 3 1/4 inches. We'll cut that horizontally at 9. Set this aside for scoring. File this in pocket B. Then we have this long piece. We'll cut horizontally at 6.5. This 6.5 piece goes into pocket C, and this will go in D as a scrap. And we once again have our little really skinny strips, so we're just going to set those aside. Next two pieces. I am trimming 2 pieces at a time, by the way, and if you don't feel comfortable, go ahead and do it 1 sheet at a time. That's absolutely fine. Same thing here. The scores will eventually happen going in this direction, therefore I want the paper to bend easily from top to bottom. So if I just once again grab this, kind of just test it, really wants to go that way. I want my paper to dip easily from top to bottom. Let's trim the 2 together at 10 1/2 and 6 1/4. We're going to cut this horizontally at 10 1/2 and set this larger piece aside for scoring. This will go in pocket D as a scrap. And now we have another longer strip. We're going to cut this 4 1/4 by 12 horizontally at 11. This will be set aside for scoring. And then we made 2 scraps. This long 12-inch piece will be filed in pocket C. That's going to become the belly band for those Gatefold cards. Guess what we get to do now? The same thing one more time. Check your grain direction, dipping easily top to bottom. Very good. Make our 2 cuts. First one again at 10 1/2 and 6 1/4. Rotate the 6 1/4 inch piece and cut it at 10 1/2. Set aside the large piece for scoring. Once again, these go in pocket D. This will trim horizontally at 11. This will be scored. This will be filed as a scrap. And once again, we have 2 more belly bands going in pocket C. Okay, now we have a really nice easy one. This is the black plain. We're going to make a bunch of 2 by 6 inch pieces. So, easy way to do that is just cut it at 6 inches, and we're just a single sheet, and the grain direction does not matter. Now, take the 2 pieces we just created, stack them, and cut horizontally in all the even numbers. So that's 10, 8, 6, 4, and 2. Gather up all those little 2 by 6s and put them in pocket B. That's for that standing box card. Next on the other black plane, you do need to locate the grain direction, and I once again want it to dip easily from top to bottom because there are some really small score lines you're going to be making. So, dipping easily this way, we'll make a pretty large number here, 11 3/4 to create a narrow strip, then 10 3/4, 9 3/4, and 6 3/4. Rotate the 6 3/4 inch piece, and we're going to cut at some of my favorite numbers: 11, 8 1/4, 5.5, 2 3/4. Now what those numbers gave me were 4 pieces, all the same width of 2 3/4 of an inch, and all 4 of these pieces will be filed in pocket C. Now there is a smaller little strip here that will go in D as a scrap, and then we have this long, narrower piece. Let's cut this at those same wonderful numbers. So 11, 8 1/4, 5.5, and 2 3/4. Then I can take all of those rectangles that are the same width of 2 3/4 of an inch, file those in pocket A, and we have a little scrap. Now, these strips will be just trimmed in half at 6 inches. I'm going to trim them both at the same time. They're 1 inch. Now, what you can do in a smaller piece like this is bring it to the midpoint and rest the top edge of your paper just below the inch markings on that straight line. Make sure it's level, and just slice it at 6 inches, and set these 4 pieces aside for scoring. Okay, just one more piece left to trim is the teal plain. Let's cut that at 10 3/4, and the grain direction does not matter in this case. Then 8 3/4, 6 3/4. We're going to rotate and cut at those 4 magical numbers: 11, 8 1/4, 5.5, 2 3/4. Once again, now we have 4 panels, the same width, going into pocket C. I usually have a student who will remind me if I have forgotten a scrap, but there is 1/4 inch piece of block that can be set aside. Then you have the narrow little piece that's also a scrap. Then you have 2 pieces that are 2 by 12. We'll cut these horizontally at 6. So 4 equally sized pieces. And file them in pocket B. Now, I know you're ready for this. You can handle it. Some weird measurements here, but it was something that worked out so well. So just bear with me. Our first cut is going to be at 11.5. Then 8 5/8. So what I do for that is I find 8.5, and I go halfway between 8.5 and 8 3/4. There's that little medium-sized hash mark. That's 8 5/8. A nice easy one at 5 3/4, and then 2 7/8. Halfway between 2 3/4 and 3. That should give me 4 pieces, all the same size, going into pocket C. And then this, my friends, is your final scrap. Next, we'll need to prep our cut-aparts and get those filed so that we can have all of the sentiments on our cards. Now, if you happen to be someone who loves to do rubber stamping, go ahead and still trim the cut-aparts, flip them over, and you can use the same side with your images from your own stash. So we're going to follow those little hash marks on the outside edges of the cut-apart print to determine where we trim each piece. And this trims real nicely into narrow strips. Okay, these 4 pieces of the same size will all be going in pocket B. The next 2 strips are the same. Once I separate them and remove the scrap, they'll all go in pocket A. These 3 floral pieces without any text go in pocket A. And then once I separate these and remove the scrap, all of these sentiments will go in pocket B. These are the inserts for that little pocket card. The next sheet, trim off the end. There's going to be a scrap, and then we're going to rotate and separate those elements. Now when you do this rotation, be very careful to make sure you remove the skinniest piece first so that you have a lot to hang on to, or at least more to hang on to from that left edge. Every single strip in this set goes in pocket C. Let's separate these pieces. This floral piece will join its friends in pocket A, And then all 4 of these will go in B. Next, every sentiment on this strip will be filed in pocket C. That concludes the trimming process, so let's get out our ScorPal and finish up scoring our card bases. I'll tackle the stack that of card bases and things that need to be scored that we've set aside from the top down. So that's going to have us beginning with the black plain strips. And those are located on this diagram right here on the edge. And we're going to score these. I think I can do this 2 at a time, believe it or not. So I'll take 2 pieces, put them in the ScorPal, and I'm going to score at 1, 3, and 5. I'm going to flip it and score at 2 and 4. Now, when I do this scoring, I am pushing quite firmly, and you'll notice that it's definitely transferring successfully to both sides, to both layers of this particular paper. And once that's done, you can file that in pocket B. This is going to turn into what I call a butterfly hinge that holds the sentiment onto the card base. So again, 1, 3, 5. Flip that piece bottom to top, and then 2 and 4. Put it in pocket B. Okay, next from the teal plane, I'm going to score at 5.5, and then I'm doing 2 at a time. I'll flip and score at 8 1/4. That flip is optional, but again, it's going to become a double Z fold card. If you dig a little deeper in your pile, you're going to find the pink version of this. Again, score at 5.5, and then flip bottom to top, score at 8 1/4. And both of these will be filed in pocket A. Then we'll take 2 of the teal planes and we'll score at 2 3/8. And on this ScorPal, it's so nice that there is a line every 1/8. 2 3/8. 4 3/4. 7 1/8. 9 1/2. Pocket B. Repeat that for the pink. 2 3/8, 4 3/4, 7 1/8, 9 1/2. Pocket B. All right, now we're moving on to the white planes. Let's score these narrow pieces horizontally at 3, and I'm doing 2 at a time. Flip and score at 6. Pocket C. I'm sorry, pocket A. Let's find the pink in the same size. We'll score at 3, 2 at a time, flip, score at 6, pocket A. Then we have our larger white base. We'll score both of these on the same side at 3 and 8. Again, same two layers at a time. That's our base for card set C, as is the dark pink. So we're going to once again score at 3 and 8 and file in pocket C. That concludes all the prep work for a total of 12 cards. After you take everything out of pocket A, you'll have everything you need to make these adorable Z fold cards. So, or double Z, I guess it would be. This is a thank you card. Get well soon. And this is the color of teal, white, black combination. Let's go ahead and make the happy birthday card in the light pink, dark pink combination. So for each card, you will need the scored card base, and then in this case, the dark pink double scored. There's going to be a floral piece of art, a black panel, and that will nest with this front panel that says happy birthday, and then an inner greeting that says hope all your wishes come true. So to begin, let's take this card base, and it has been scored twice. Look for the score in the center with the bump facing you. So this will be the indentation. This is a bump, and we want to bury that bump. So this essentially folds the card in half. And before I make my final crease, I always make sure that the corners line up really beautifully. Then I have another score line. Here's my bump. So I want to take the free edge of the card, bury that bump inside the fold, and bring that edge up to that first initial mountain fold. And now that's the base of my card structure. If you'd like, now would be a good time to go ahead and add the art panel to the left side of this card flap. So again, this is the front of the card. Now, we can take this other piece that's been scored. Remember, we flipped it, and that's so that we create the right, so the bumps can go in the right places. So here's a bump, I'll bury it. And if I flip over, here's another bump I can bury. And if I have just now folded this piece into like an accordion style fold, eventually this piece will sit on the card base like so. Here we have the happy birthday sentiment, and it nests onto the black mat. But before we actually attach it, let's take some of this black jute, and we're going to wrap twice around this art panel and just tie the ends into a double knot and trim the tails. Once that's wrapped, we can go ahead and nest this onto the black panel. Okay, so now I want you to take the piece that's been scored twice and make sure you have a mountain fold on the left, and then the valley fold should be on the right. It's really important to make the card function properly. So let's take this nested sentiment and we'll place it in the left scored area. This remains open, and then we'll take this inner sentiment and put it in the right scored area. So this will be right next to the valley fold. Okay, easy peasy to finish this up. Let's open the card base, flip this over, and we'll put adhesive on the back of the tri-folded piece. Center that, and I'm just going to visually center. If you really wanted to be precise, you could use the 0 center of a grid ruler. Next, take only the top flap of this tri-fold and open it, and then close the card base. Do you see this area that extends past the edge of the card? This is the area that requires the adhesive. After adding it, I'll just close this on top of the flap, and the card functions perfectly. Isn't that awesome? Really easy way to know where your adhesive limit is, just by opening that and putting the adhesive past the edge of the card, and then closing on top of the flap. All right, so what you can do now is take the remaining components for the other card, and we'll set that aside in the A2 envelope, which is an A2 card is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And let's move on to set B. We're going to be making a standing box card, really cool structure that I absolutely love, with a little sentiment that inserts into a pocket that we'll make. And there will be 2 teal color cards and 2 pink cards. So let's make one of the teal cards, and we'll set aside all the pieces for the pink for now. So to gather the pieces we'll use, take one of the teal card bases. I'm going to position this with the bumps facing up, and then count out 4 black, I think these are 2x6s, and then 1 art element. You'll need one of those little black hinges. This is 1x6, and we scored that earlier. A pair of pink, dark pink mat, and a happy birthday sentiment, and then the inside sentiment will say, make it super fab. So we're going to do the birthday card. Let's begin by forming our box. So all of these scores need to be folded, and you're going to bury those bumps. Bury the bump. This one must have been the second layer on my double score. Each time I make a crease, I want to make extra sure that the card is staying level as I'm making these folds, that the ends are aligned. Now on this last fold, I've just created a little bit of a tab. Take some bookbinding glue that is in a needle tip applicator. This is probably a nice thing for something like this where small adjustments may need to be made. And the wet glue allows me to make those adjustments, which is really nice. So now I just made a square with a little tab on the inside. Next we have these 4 black panels. Fast way to handle this is to lay them all out, and we'll put adhesive on the ends. When I'm making massive amounts of something, this is how I do it. All my gluing in one batch and my adhering in the next. And then just take the card base and adhere one of these black panels within each scored area. Now is a good time to determine the front of the card. So if you are aware of where that tab is on the inside, You could think, well, maybe I want the tab to be on the back, but really if you put the tab in the front, no one sees it when the card is on display. So therefore, this is where my tab's going to be, and this will be the front of my card. Once that's been determined, you can go ahead and add the little decorative art piece to the left panel. And that should nest right on there perfectly. Now, so we can give it a little time to dry while we make our hinge, let's create the pocket with the happy birthday sentiment. Take the needle tip glue applicator and apply a U-shaped area of glue to the sentiment, and then just center that onto the pink panel and set that aside to dry. Now here's our hinge. This is super easy once you get the hang of it. And I've got a bump here, so I'm going to start by folding on that bump and then just continue fan folding as you go down until the whole thing turns into a little square. And once you're sure everything's kind of level and neat, then go ahead and flatten it or even burnish those folds all at once. Very nice. Okay, so position your little piece of paper so that you have 3 mountain folds at the top. Looks like a W kind of with ends. If you have it like this, we have 3 valley folds and 2 mountain folds. You want to have it the other way around. 3 mountain folds, 2 valleys. What we're going to do is glue those valleys together to make like an X shape or a butterfly. So we'll put glue to adhere the 2nd and 3rd folds, and then also adhere the 4th and 5th folds. And again, we have formed an X shape or like a butterfly. Just give that a second to dry. And then take the happy birthday panel, turn it over to the back, and I'm going to apply glue to the double thickness areas of my hinge. So all the way across there, and this is the layer that has 2 thicknesses. And I'll put this maybe a little above center-ish and centered left to right. Again, a ruler could be used at this point to make sure it's perfect, but I find eyeballing it works pretty well. Just make sure it's bonded with the paper, and now I have a remaining little hinge here. The place where this is going to live is on this fold at the front of the card. So again, the front of the card has a fold in it. So if I put adhesive on that hinge and add it to the front of the card, when the card is open, this will remain in the front. Really cool. The advantage, again, to using a liquid adhesive at this point is that you can just place this on the center. Make sure you're low enough so we can add this with a ribbon into the pocket. Just kind of give it a little press, but then open the card and check your hinge from both sides to make sure it's bonding nicely and it stays in straight. Look at that. Isn't that easy? I just love how this comes together. Okay, so now we're done with this glue for the time being. I love that stuff. And let's take some of this gorgeous satin ribbon and we'll just trim off a little piece. You can tell the ribbon is sort of curling in this direction, so when I fold it in half, I'll go with the grain. And at this point, I'll just take a little stapler and staple it. You could also use a brad or some other creative way to attach the ribbon to the little insert. And then you can slide this right on in your card, and that is a beautiful thing. The other cards in the set will come together the same exact way. It'll just use different colors. And as a note, on the light pink card bases, you'll have a total of 4 panels. 2 will be teal and 2 will be black. Just you can alternate them on the card base however you like. Let's see what card set C has in store. Let's make a really fun happy birthday card. And for our version, we're going to use a white card base, a black panel, a teal panel, a small teal panel, a teal belly band, a littler pink panel. We'll have the word fabulous, you don't look a day over, and then a piece of artwork and an inner sentiment that says happy birthday, gorgeous. Now again, what I love about this style of card making is that all of these colors of the different cards get swapped. So again, you've got 2 white card bases, 2 dark pink card bases, and all those colors just interchange. So you can take a look at your instructions and it will show what colors are used at each, but there's no right or wrong. You can do your own thing, your own color combinations, and however you like. Okay, so to make this pretty simple gatefold card, I will find the bump of my score and go ahead and fold on that to bury the bump. And because we paid attention of the grain direction of our paper when we originally cut it, these folds will be nice and crisp and clean. Next, let's add our black and teal panels to the card flaps. At this juncture, it doesn't matter which flap you glue them on because they're both the same size. So we'll add this black panel to this flap and the teal panel to this flap. Okay, then I do kind of want the teal panel to end up here. That's just my personal preference. And look at the fit of this one right in that beautiful space. I love how that turned out. And honestly, there was a little bit of a weird measurement you had to deal with when you cut this, but I think it was worth it. Okay, now let's add some artwork here. We've got You Don't Look a Day Over. That'll be in the left flap. And then the other art panel will be on the right. And I'm just kind of going to keep those closer to the edge of the flap. Then, once again, we had to do a bit of a strange little measurement, but it worked because I was able to take what would have been a scrap and turn it into a mat for the word fabulous. Now, if you wanted to, you could take some of the satin ribbon and just trim off a short length and fold it in half, again, with the grain of the ribbon so that it lays nice. And maybe just attach it to the back of the teal panel, or if you remember, put it between the panel and the word fabulous. Then this will be the home I'm after for my fabulous panel. So I'll put some adhesive just on the left side so I don't glue my card closed. If you've ever done that, you do want to avoid it. Now, before we forget, let's add the inner sentiment to the card, Happy Birthday, Gorgeous. I think that's so fun. Now, if you want to make the belly band, here's an easy way to do it. I like to take the band and have the seam match. If there's going to be a seam, it might as well match. So have that start at the edge of the top flap. And when I bring it around, just make sure it's nice and level. And that you don't go too tight or too loose on the band, so you can still remove it from the card. The best way to attach these two ends, then, is to open, have the one you want on top, open that. And then place adhesive here and at the edge of the other end. That way when you close it, all the adhesive will be in just the right places without going over or past any given area. Nice. We were able to include a really beautiful roll of washi tape, and it matches this collection so nicely. I want to show you a quick way to do a nice job of attaching the washi tape to this belly band. So I'm going to start right on the edge where the seam of the band lands. I'm going to run the tape around the band, and I think I actually made a little bit of a misfold here, so bear with me. When I reach the other side of the card and I get to the seam, I'll just take my craft knife and make a slice just right along the seam, and then I can add another row beneath, like on the other side. Okay, the next thing that we can do is, I want to show you that we have a little remnant of scraps from making all of the cards. We have some white, we have some pink, we have some dark pink, and maybe we could actually cover the seam completely. If you happen to have like a decorative punch of some kind, I thought this daisy that I just happen to have, I've gotten a lot of use out of this little daisy. It might be kind of a fun way to finish off that belly band. So let's just punch a couple of shapes here. And I'll grab my trusty bookbinding glue and simply add a little glue to the shape. And we're going to place it right over the seam. And now I have a really nice looking finished card. Maybe you have a fun little steel rule die that you like to use that might match this. I think the shapes in here are really cool and probably have something that would match. Now with my glue attached, I have a really cute belly band. Now granted, mine just got a little too big. And then it opens to reveal this super fun card. I mean, that's not bad for a pile of scraps when you make 12 cards. This is definitely something you could probably not feel too bad about throwing away. Okay, next, I thought about how fun this was and wondered if there was a way I could duplicate this, perhaps in another style. So we gave it a whirl. This is the navigation card kit that uses the same exact cutting formulas but with different papers. And guess what? It works beautifully. So this kit comes with 11 sheets of 12 by 12 paper, some ribbons, some really cool compass ribbon, and some fun manila tags. Again, we're making these Z-fold cards, and you'll notice just the difference in the color schematic, more of a masculine style. Love how these turned out. And then we have the jute also in a maroon color. Very, very pretty. Then when we did the standing box cards, because we chose to use the manila tag as one of the goodies, we adapted the cut apart to fit onto the tag perfectly. So the tag is the item that gets inserted, and we topped that with some of the jute. Again, this is the standing box card. Really turned out nice. And to embellish it, we're adding just one of those little pieces of the compass from that compass ribbon that we were able to add. Turned out so sweet. Finally, here is the overlapping gatefold card. I combined some jute as well as the compass ribbon to finish off the card, and I think it just looks extremely beautiful. You can never have enough of these cards, unfortunately, but I just think the way this translates from collection to collection is such a beautiful thing. I had so much fun making these cards. What you can do when you have this collection is, if you happen to have more paper at home, take your own paper, substitute it out, and create your own artwork to finish the cards in this structure. And in the future, watch for more collections from Club Scrap just like this card kit, so you can continue to make these beautiful cards and also more cards with the papers that you have in your stash. I can't wait to explore this more. We'll see you next time.